Sorry. It's okay.
Good afternoon, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, Your Excellencies. I'd like to stand on all existing protocols. My name is Daniel Oramabo, and I work for Chint Global. Just quickly, we're supposed to have some slides up on the screen. I would like, next slide, please. Next 2 slides, please. So quickly, who are we as Chint? We're a multinational company, and just to create an impression, the next time you hear Chint, I'd like you to understand that we're a $22.1 billion company, and we have over 50 employees globally. We take innovation very seriously, and to this end, we have over 8,000 registered patents, and we have over 26 industries, over 26 manufacturing industries, and we have 3 of them in Africa, one in Uganda, one in Kenya, and one in Egypt. What do we do as Chint? We are an end-to-end value providing company for the energy industry. And we provide everything from power generation and PV all the way to distribution. How can we support you best? Please proceed to the last slide. We are present in over 140 countries. We have 33 subsidiaries globally, and we have Nigeria as one of them. In order to be able to meet the Nigerian demand, we have local stock in our warehouse in Lagos, Nigeria, and we are ready to supply the Nigerian market. As a way to collaborate properly with Nigeria, we are looking for ways to invest, and we recently have invested in a factory in Kenya where we are able to daily produce over 400,000 meters globally. On the screen right now is a quick display of our product. We pride ourselves in having the highest breaker in the low voltage industry that is rated up to 7,500 amps. Please, last slide, please. All right, so finally, because of the time constraint we have, on the screen right now I have a barcode. Don't be shy, don't be too tensed. Please scan the barcode. We have questions you could ask. My name is Daniel once again. Thank you very much for your time, and I look forward to seeing you at our booth right there at the exhibition stand. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Please, a round of applause for Chint. They have done very well keeping to time. Can we have Sika Manufacturing? Sika Manufacturing. You have 2 minutes.
Good afternoon, everybody. Standing on the existing protocol, I'm Abdulrazak Usman from Sika Manufacturing. Please, can I have our slide, please? Slide is not coming up. Slide, please. Next, place the video. Place the video, please. No. Back. Yeah, there's the video here. Can you play it, please? Okay, next. Please back. Okay. Can you please play the video here? It's not coming up. Next slide. Next. Yes, Sika Manufacturing, we have global presence, and we are in more than 101 countries, and we have more than 300 factories across the world. As of now, we have more than 27,000 employees. Next slide, please. Next slide. Next. Yeah. As we all know, we are into construction chemical manufacturing, where we manufacture different range of construction chemicals, such as concrete admixtures, waterproofing, and the likes. This is a typical example of a brain construction where you have a grouting system, we have concrete repair and protection, a solution for expansion joint, bridge expansion joint, waterproofing, and coating. Please, slide. Next slide. These are other solutions where you have our concrete admixture and cement additive. As we all know that cement is one of the highest contributor to the carbon dioxide emission in the whole world. It's about 8%, and the usage of silver plaster we easily reduce about 20 to 10% consumption rate of cement, which in return reduce the carbon dioxide emission. Last slide, please. Next slide. Last slide. Next. Please, previous slide. Yeah, we have 2 factories in Lagos, one at Opik, the other one at Ilukweju. The contact there can be reached, and you can also visit our stand at B4. We are there to attend to 1 or 2 questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sika Manufacturing, for keeping to time. May we now have Nile University.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, distinguished engineers. Permit me to stand on all existing protocols. My name is Obona Angela, and I work with the best private university in northern Nigeria. The AD Scientific Index ranking of 2024 recently ranked Nile University, which I proudly represent here today, as the best private university in the north. And how are we doing this? Firstly, we're a member of the Honoris United University Network. Honoris is the first and the largest Pan-African private higher education network, and there are about 16 institutions in this network, and Nile University happens to be one of them. Other universities include EMSI, which is one of the biggest engineering institutions in Morocco, Esprit in Tunisia, and many more. Now, as a part of this network, we are able to offer international and globally relevant education. We do this by creating work-integrated, skill-based, and industry-based learning experiences that helps our undergraduate students become employable when they become graduates. But beyond that, we also equip them to become solution providers. That's why we have a career services center that provides the full support for them, to get them the necessary skills to thrive in the changing world of work. We have a collective lab, for students that have entrepreneurial mind to bring their ideas to life. Now, we also understand the need for consistent handshake between academia and the industry. That's why we've established a lot of strategic industry partnership to also help our students, thrive. I also want to share that for those of us that are looking to do any of our postgraduate programs, they're about 55 in number. Classes are very flexible. We run flexible payment plan. But most importantly, the curriculum are industry-based, with classes being case study-based and group discussions. Now, for those of us with kids that are, of university age, we have over 44 undergraduate programs as well, all accredited by the NUC and other relevant bodies. Finally, we run short courses across different areas via short consults, and we've also established a digital learning platform called Nile Online that allows all our educational products, and content across different areas, to be accessed by anyone, anywhere. Thank you very much. Our booth is A4. Should you have any other questions or inquiries, please feel free to reach out to us.
A round of applause for her, please. Thank you very much, Nile University. Moving on very quickly, we'll be having interactions on the technicalities of OBE implementation. And it is my singular honor and privilege to very respectfully once again invite up to the fore Engineer Professor Megat Johari Megat Mohammed Noor, Chair Dublin Accord and Governing Group at the IEA, President Malaysian Society of Engineering and Technology. A round of applause for him, please. We can do better with our applause. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Can we have the PowerPoints on? I will try to... you may be having an overdose from me, right? I've been asked to talk about the interactions on technicalities of OBE implementation. Now, what does it mean by OBE? First, some people say it's the order of the British Empire. Right? Nothing as such. It's all about outcome-based education. You'll find that there are pros and cons. There are people who support outcome-based. There are people who negate the importance of outcome-based. Whatever the case is, at the Washington, Sydney, and Dublin, even the agreements that we talk about at the professional level, it is all about outcomes. Even when you do professional assessment of engineers, it's all about outcomes as well. So similarly, at the level of education, outcomes is an important thing to be considered. And similarly, when we talk about accreditation, it is also an outcome-based accreditation. All right, can we have the slides on, please? Okay, shall we go to the next one? Okay, I've shown this one to you, right? The importance of we knowing how do we structure our curriculum, practical based as well as theoretical based. Can we go to the next slide, please? I've already shown you this, and it is important that you keep in mind, as this diagram would give you somewhat a differentiation between all the accords, the three accords. Let's go to the next one. Yes. Now let us look at this volume of knowledge. Okay, let's see if it works. No? No? Okay. It's a bit slow. Okay. All right. So if we look at the volume of knowledge, if you look at the number of years, what is given by Washington, Sydney, and Dublin, it is about the number of years of education. But sometimes, if you're not effective, the number of years means nothing, isn't it? But what they're trying to give you is that the volume of knowledge has to be covered within 4 years. So that is giving us an indication what's the volume. For example, with Washington Accord, with a 4-year program, there should be a certain volume of knowledge. And similarly, you find for the engineering technologies, there is also another volume of knowledge, right? And there are 3 categories, one could say, in terms of the volume of knowledge. The first category, it's about maths, science, and other knowledge. Then the core area is all about engineering theoretical knowledge, and finally, the practice side of it. And engineering technology here is going to have 35% as compared to the engineering program. So there's a lot more practical emphasis, the way that the curriculum is being delivered. Now, let's just see it works. No? Now, what I'm showing you at that end, right, that is the volume of mathematics, right? The volume of mathematics. Maybe you better operate. I don't think this thing is really working, okay? In terms of the percentage amount of mathematics, you could find that less mathematics is being covered for engineering technology, as I mentioned just now. But what we intend to talk about, I was asked to talk about the outcome base from the context of complex engineering problem. That goes to the next one. Next slide, please. Right, you can put everything there. Okay. This is, if you remember, I did mention about knowledge profile. I did mention about graduate attributes. The other one is complex problem. Remember about the problem solving? That's about complex problem. Now, here, I'm putting up the relationship between knowledge in relation to the attributes and complex problem, right? And some of you may have seen this before. Now, if you see that right at that far end, you find that engineering knowledge is the most important, right? Even though we talk about broad base, but the engineering knowledge is very important. And it has to be in-depth. Now, if any universities that are offering programs and they cannot demonstrate that they are actually teaching or allowing the students to go in-depth, right? And what do we mean by in-depth here? Some people tend to use what has been known as Bloom's taxonomy, right? In education, Bloom's taxonomy for cognitive knowledge is quite famous, one would say. So if you go for in-depth, you must actually go really deep to an extent that students are able to come up with to the level where they can evaluate, they can create. So sometimes we ask this question, what do you mean by create? Create means students, they were not exposed to some of these things, right? But they come up with it. They were not exposed to it before. So for example, when you do an experiment, right? When you do an experiment, what will be the outcome of that experiment? What will be the output from that experiment? Usually, there's going to be a report, isn't it? There's going to be a report related to the experiment. Now, that report is a creation from nothing into a report that actually expound on the experimental work that had been done. So that is a form of creation, from nothing to something. But of course, the level, the quality of this report may vary from one person to another. But the expectation is you are able to go deep enough. And the depth of it is all about the highest level of the cognitive knowledge. And you cannot just say, I'm going to teach in my class, or the student is going to learn in my class how to apply. And that's it. They must be able to evaluate, they must be able to not just apply, but the level of analysis, the level of evaluation, the level of creation. So that is the sort of in-depth knowledge that is required. So if any one of you who are actually looking into a complex problem, right, if you are being assigned to teach a course on complex problem, you must remember the knowledge content must be deep enough, right? The depth must be there. It cannot be superficial. You must go to the depth, right? And here it relates to the knowledge profile, WK1, WK2, WK3, and 4. What is 1 and 2? That's about mathematics and sciences, right? Whereas 3 and 4, it's about fundamental engineering as well as specialized engineering. And that's where I tend to put it on the side here, WK1, 2, 3, and 4. That's what we mean by in-depth. So if any one of you is being assigned to teach, let's say, WA1, these are the potential knowledge profile that you are supposed to have, right? Now, in order to solve complex problem, apart from having that first attribute on the knowledge of engineering, right? You need to actually look at the other 6. The 6 levels of problem solving. For example, if you go, for example, to the first one, it says about range of conflicting requirements, right? And usually in these requirements, we always say you can have number 1, which is WP1, and then you can have some or all of what is listed down there. Now, what is listed down there, if I read it here, it says range of conflicting requirements. Please keep to the same one. Yes, right? Range of conflicting requirements. Next is about depth of analysis required. The third one is about familiarity of issues, and many more. Now, if you think about familiarity of issues, are your students familiar with those issues? Now, if you're giving them something that is familiar, like, for example, you run a tutorial, they are being familiarized, and suddenly you say that is in-depth. It is not, right? They are supposed to be using the knowledge which they are not familiar with the situation, right? But use the knowledge to solve that situation. So this is where sometimes when you see, when we go into the universities, right, or polytechnics, we ask this question, whereabout are your open-ended labs? Now, most of the time, our labs has been very much structured. 1, do this. 2, do that, right? Finally, you complete everything, and even how to analyze it is also given, the sort of graph that you have to plot. That is not open-ended. That doesn't ask the question, that doesn't ask you to solve complex problem. So if you are teaching engineering technologies, yes, you can do that, but not when you are teaching engineering, right? It has to be open-ended. Although you may have 1 or 2 courses, right, 1 or 2 experiments that doesn't require that. But most of the time, the expectation is open-ended. And that's when, if you do have laboratories that you conduct, it is open-ended, therefore it is actually solving complex problem, right, in a way. Now, with that, if you see that, for example, in-depth will require other aspects as well, which is WK5, 6, and 8. So in total, if you're, let's say you're being assigned a course, and that course falls in any one of those knowledge profile, chances are those knowledge will be used to solve complex problem, right? On its own, it may not be able to do it, but overall, it can be used to solve complex problem. And that's the very reason sometimes a particular course cannot address everything. So they may have a selection of them, but overall, it gives you the depth of knowledge that you use to solve complex problem. Now, you can make it a bit more complex by introducing other knowledge profile, right? For example, if you ask, maybe there was one particular case. I can give you an example when we visited a university. And this university, and this was actually evaluated at the Washington Accord level, right? And I was observing this process that was conducted then. But one of the questions that was raised by the reviewer was, this is the final year project. One of the questions that was asked, what have you considered when you undertook the final year projects? And that final year project was related to someone having to do a conversion from conventional fuel to renewable fuel as far as a particular motorcycle problem was given to them. To convert from conventional to renewable. Now that sounds complex, isn't it? Changing something from conventional to renewable. And they did it very well. They have the reports, everything. But when that question came, what had you considered? The students could not explain what did they consider. Then the person asked again, how did you do it? And then he said, I referred to the YouTube, right? In the YouTube, they tell you about everything, step 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and I did it. And I solved the problem. Now, it's not an issue of solving the problem, but the issue is whether have you learned how to solve that problem? What had you considered to solve the problem? So when another question was fielded, have you considered any environmental issues? Any safety issues? There was silent, right? Nobody, this group couldn't explain. So the fact is that he had applied that knowledge from the YouTube to solve the problem. So he did not solve a complex problem, but the problem was complicated. That's all. So it's not solving a complex problem. It is a complicated problem, but you follow the steps one by one as instructed. You arrive at the solution. And this is where the difference between engineering and engineering technology is, right? And we had a situation in Malaysia as well, right? When we talk about this outcome, right? We were looking at a university that was supposed to focus on engineering technology, but they decided to do engineering as well. But the way that it was done, it was very much applied in nature, right? Students need not have to understand the fundamentals, okay? All right. So as it is, that differentiation is important, and even though they may have solved the problem, they are not solving complex problem.
1 minute.
Okay.
No. I want to do something. We finish your lecture by 10, by 1 o'clock. Then we'll call the member of EAC. They'll come up and ask questions. Then you will answer.
All right. Okay. Next. Now this is the Sydney. And if you look at that relationship, it's about the same, isn't it? But the expectation is definitely different. So you don't expect them to consider from fundamentals, right? They are very much applied, still broadly defined, but the structure is about the same. Instead of W there, it is S for Sydney. So in order to solve that broadly defined, the depth of knowledge is required, but the depth is at the application level. So you don't go into the first principle, right? Next. You could, these PowerPoints are readily available for all of you. You can get it from COREN. I do not want to go through all of them. So what I would like to see after this is there may be questions that you would like to ask, and presumably we can have a bit more interaction there. So with that, thank you very much, and let us have an open discussion if there are questions.
Ladies and gentlemen, we thank you very much for the very attentive session we have. We are breaking a bit to allow interaction between our guest lecturer and the audience. But to make it more compact, we have what we call in COREN EAC, Engineering Accreditation Committee, that has been in existence for the last 6-7 years, that have been assigned to represent us in the accreditation of engineering education in the university, in the polytechnics, and eventually in the technical colleges. They have been doing excellent work, and so this interaction, to make it more focal, more meaningful, we will invite the leadership of the EAC to ask specific areas that they identify as gap, so that our guest lecturer will seize the opportunity to respond to them, and other members who are understanding this whole concept for the first time will follow queue. And as he said, the materials are going to be available, and we are going to make sure we have a structured arrangement to share it to everybody. So in this context, I would like to invite the chairman of the EAC, in the person of Professor John Olorumaye, to come and maybe to make your intervention. We really want people that can really communicate with what our guest lecturer has been speaking. After Professor John Olorumaye, we'll also ask the deputy chair, Professor El Yakub, to follow suit, and then Professor Emmanuel Ajab, who is also a member of the EAC board, and then Dr. Moji Olorintoba to also. So we are selecting 4 members of the EAC, the leadership and 2 other members, to please intervene on behalf of the audience, and so that we allow the guest speaker to respond. With this, I would like to invite Professor Olorumaye to take the first shot.
Thank you, Professor Megat, for the lecture you have given us on complex engineering problems. My question is this. When the students have completed all their courses, and at the point of graduation, we are assessing the level of attainment of the 11 graduate attributes, what do we do? For example, if we find a student has attained maybe 6 out of the 11 graduate attributes, and yet his overall score makes it possible for him to graduate maybe with a second-class honors upper division or second-class honors lower division. But out of the 11 attributes, he has successfully attained only 6 of them. What do we do? What is the way forward? Do we go ahead and graduate him even though he lacks some of the attributes?
A very common question here. We know that graduation is based on, if you have a semester credit system, maybe a 2.0 is what a person needs to get to graduate. Now, with an outcome base, when you have 11 outcomes at the moment being listed, all the 12, or rather all the 11 outcomes must be demonstrated as achieved. You may get a 2.0, you may get a 2.5, but if not, let's say any single one is missed, right? Any single one is being missed, that person shouldn't graduate. Now, who sets the standard? You are the one who sets the standard, isn't it? In terms of outcome. And remember, when it comes to the outcomes, the most important outcome is your engineering outcomes, right? For example, you talk about specialized courses. That outcome must be attained to a level where we talk about in-depth just now. But what happens with outcomes on communication? Communication is not about engineering, but it's about communicating on engineering activities, right? Do we expect the person to be so eloquent that he can actually elaborate things to a highest level? Or is it to a level that is expected of, the minimum level that he is expected of? Now, if a university sets a very high standard and he or she missed that level, she shouldn't be or he shouldn't be graduating from that program. So the mistake is on the university to set something too high, whereas the requirement is not as high, right? Because you are the one who determine the non-engineering attainment of those outcomes. Just like application of safety, environment, and all those. We are not saying that they are going to graduate with a bachelor's of safety engineering or environmental engineering, but they need to consider the environment, they need to consider safety, legal, but to what level do we want? So that's why when we look at those graduate attributes or outcomes, 11 of them, the universities are the one that set the limit. And that limit is actually based on the entry level. If you are getting all the best students from Nigeria, are you going to not challenge them? Your curriculum should be challenging them, not to compare with an XYZ university that may be getting lower quality of students. So curriculum development is always based on entry requirements. And when you set those outcomes, EAC is not going to dictate what is the level of outcome, with the exception in-depth knowledge in the engineering area. I hope that explains it.
May we now invite Professor El Yakubu.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Professor Megad. Very nice presentation. There is one area that really we need very clarification. You talk about a requirement that there must be demonstration of complex engineering problem. But as we teach, I'm a professor, sometimes the students do not have the requisite background to even understand simple problems. And now there's a requirement that we must teach and show evidence of teaching complex engineering problems. To what extent do we need to demonstrate this? It is 50% of the students, 60%, 70%, what can we do? This is number one. Number two, in the assessment, there must be evidence of students achieving these complex engineering problems. How do we really assess? For example, we have these 10 or 9 different characteristics, right? It has to be open-ended, it has to be interdependent, etc. Now, how do we show evidences so that when there is an assessment for accreditation, the evidence will be clear to the assessor? Thank you very much.
You may have to remind me the second question. How much of the complex problem, that was the question asked, how much are we going to address? Now again, if you look at the GAPC, Graduate Attributes and Professional Competency, they never tell you how much, right? And I said just now, depends on your entry qualification. If you have a very high level, then that how much can be quite high. And remember, we did mention just now about the problem solving. The first level is having in-depth knowledge, and then you can have some or all of those. Things like familiarity of issues, contradictions, and so on. So you can actually have all of them being considered, or maybe some of them. So for some of the universities, you might find that they may not cover everything, but still they cover substantial enough to solve complex problem. Now, what's the right percentage? There is no right or wrong answer. For example, if you look at the British system, the UK system, now you'll find that most of the time students will graduate with a certain honors, right, based on their final year. The final year course, the final year projects, and that's the reason why they say their final year projects is basically part fulfillment to the attainment of the award of a bachelor's degree. And failing the projects, they fail everything. They may not get an honors degree, right? So you see, here is one example that says, your final year project must be complex. So at least at that level, that should be complex. And then now we have design project, capstone design projects. That should also be complex because it will require all the necessary knowledge. But if you take a particular course like strength of materials, yes, you can go in depth, but you may not be able to solve complex problem on its own, right? It requires other knowledge component, and that's the reason why it doesn't say that knowledge profile, it doesn't say that you can solve complex problem on or leveraging on one particular course, except courses that has projects, courses that have like final year projects or capstone design projects or other design projects, because it would allow integration of all other courses, right? That's the most important thing. So no one says that it must be 60%, 40%, but the minimum, I would say, this is just a rule of thumb, right? Any reviewers who come in, if they cannot see, they will, or rather they will always go to the first one, can I have a look at your final year projects report? That will be the first one they will ask. And from there, they will know whether the way that it is being taught in this curriculum actually approaches complex problem solving. And of course, the more you do, the better it is, not to just depend solely on the final year project. And that's the reason certain approaches allows you to do complex problem better. For example, if the way that you teach is using problem-based learning, or rather project-based problem-oriented learning, tendency is that you are going to solve complex problem. So choose the right method to teach. Project-based, including problem-oriented, is the best way to teach complex problem. It requires a lot of integration of other parties as well, and it allows you to go and do experiments, do research, and you are going to articulate, you are going to be able to do critiques and so on. Now, your second question? Already covered? Okay. So I thought I haven't covered everything. Thank you.
May we now have Professor E.A. Ajab.
Thank you very much, distinguished engineers. Prof, just one thing. You've spoken so well, and are there some tips you will want to pass on to universities who are transiting from their normal input to OBE? What are the things they can, some tips, it may not be everything, but what are the things they should look out for to guide them so that they will have some success? Because when evaluators go, they are very strict. Thank you very much.
Thank you for that question. In anything that we do, the first and foremost important thing is about leadership. The leadership must want to do it. If your vice chancellor is not interested, if your dean is not interested, you are bound for failure. So that's the most important thing. The vice chancellor or the president of the university and the deans who are basically in charge of the college or the department, they are the important ones that need to actually embrace outcome-based paradigm shift. Embrace accreditation, the importance of accreditation. Then the next step is to form a team. This is not an individual kind of work. You have to have a good team to develop whatever concept of outcome-based you would like to translate it into practice. So which means you have to learn about it. You must know what it is all about, but that team should gel together, work towards it, and they become the pillars that builds outcome-based from zero, or rather from transition into a proper outcome base. That's the most important thing, leadership, and you have a team. Next, you may have quality cells, you may have quality person looking after it, because quality assurance is important, right? And they should also be contributing towards this. But the only problem sometimes is when people talk about quality, they always talk about documents. Now, documents are necessary evil. If we can do away with it, we'll do away with it. So you can minimize this documentation. So think about, that's why when I say about this team, if they are from the academics, they know the sort of load of the work that needs to be done. So how could you minimize that load so that the administrative load can be minimized and you can spend your time on valuable teaching and learning? But then again, remember, the difficulty is always the first time, where you have to plan your curriculum based on outcome based. And after that, it's just a matter of improving. So you're not going to redesign and redesign every year. It's only improvement for every year. So it's the first year is the important year that you need to get it right. Get it right the first time. So don't just, do trial and error. Get it right the first time. Learn from others. But when you learn from others, remember, you need to understand the rationale behind their system. Don't just adopt everything in toto. You may adapt it. If you don't understand, ask for the rationale why they proceed along those lines. I think these are about the simple tips, I would say, in order for you to progress towards outcome-based. Always remember, leadership starts everything. Thank you.
May we now have Dr. M.M. Oloruntoba.
Good afternoon, distinguished members in the House. Professor Megat, I must commend you for that insightful presentation. I just wanted to help us give more clarification, to how a teacher or a lecturer can account for every student at the end of every examination, on attainment of the course learning outcomes. That's the CLO now. How can the lecturers and the teachers account for every student at the end of every examination? Thank you.
Conventionally, in the past, lecturers has always been sage on stage, right? Students just listen and take whatever you give. But the current breed of lecturers, if it is based on outcome, it is very much an active learning. It is an active learning, collaborative, participative, right? So the lecturers are more of like a facilitator, right? They need to know what the student needs to have or what knowledge that they need to gain. But they facilitate that process. And the way that they facilitate will be better if they understand the different pedagogy or different delivery methods, right? If typically you and I, like what I'm doing right now is giving lectures to you. You may or may not understand. I may ask questions, one or two may understand, right? But others whom I didn't ask may not understand. But if you expect everybody to understand or everybody to participate, you must use a delivery method that allows participation of everyone. Now, how do we do that? So there are many methods that are available. For example, like case method learning. I'm sure you are familiar with case method learning, which is actually being employed at Harvard University. Now, what case method learning actually brings out is that, of course, how you design it around this, you may actually give them assignment in advance, right? And you're going to have a discussion in the classroom. And then you would expect whom you are going to question will not be the same person all the time. And you would expect, and you are going to evaluate everybody in the class. And there was one situation this particular professor from Harvard was saying. His student said to him, I've been putting out my hands, but you never call me. Should I be faulted because of that? And then the lecturer say, okay, probably that was my blind side. So the next time when he went to the class and he saw, yes, that guy actually put up his hand all the time, right? So you have to be practicing it as a facilitator rather than sage on stage, right? And imagine with this case method learning, they are solving problems. They have the knowledge from solving that problem. They need to know the theory behind it. And at the same time, they are doing it in a group, right? Collaborating with each other, unless you give a very simple assignment where one person does it, everybody gets it. No, it's not like that. So it's how you design it to get everybody to collaborate. That means to say the time given may not be enough for everybody individually to solve the problem, but as a group they can solve the problem. And through that case method learning, one of the beauty that you can actually get out of it is students' ability to articulate, because they will have to explain, right? They will have to discuss. So there is a lot of articulation. And can you imagine if there are more of the academic staff using that technique, it becomes a second nature in your students to be able to articulate, to be able to collaborate, and so on. I think that's the beauty of the system. You may not even assess those in some cases, but because it is being done regularly, it becomes your second nature. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That brings us to the close of this session. But I'd like to humbly request that we all rise and give Professor a very resounding applause. He's done remarkably well. He was here before most of us this morning, and he's been pouring out since yesterday. We greatly appreciate him. Please make the applause louder. Thank you very much. We sincerely appreciate you, sir. Thank you. ESC members, please come for photographs. Thank you. ESC members. Please applaud them as they return back to their seats. Thank you. Moving on very quickly, we'll be taking submissions from engineering professional associations. And to chair this session, it is my singular honor and privilege to welcome up to the stage the President and Chairman of the Council for the Regulation of Engineering in Nigeria, Engineer Professor Sadiq Zubair Abubakar, fellow Nigerian Society of Engineers, fellow Academy of Engineering. A round of applause, please. Next up, I would like to invite up to the floor the President of the Nigerian Society of Engineers, who is none other than Engineer Margaret Aina Oguntala, fellow Nigerian Society of Engineers. A round of applause, please. Next up, I'd like to invite up to the floor the President of the Nigerian Association of Technologists in Engineering, Right Honorable Tech Dominic Udoatan, fellow Nigerian Association of Technologists in Engineering. A round of applause, please. Next up, I'd like to invite up to the floor the President of the Nigerian Association of Engineering Craftsmen, Honorable Umar Usman Meikunkele F. Naik. A round of applause, please. And lastly, I'd like to invite up to the floor the President of the Association for Consulting Engineering in Nigeria, Engineer Kam Salem Alhaji Bukar, fellow Nigerian Society of Engineers. Thank you. You may all kindly be seated, please. I'll now hand over to the chairman of the session.
Thank you very much, Madam Moche. Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. I would like to, first and foremost, announce the missing of one of the family members, because we are not complete. And I think I should be able to say it officially here. You know, we have the Association of the Technicians, what we call NICET. They ought to be here to complete the fraternity. They are not here, and we are apologizing that they are not in this fold. We want to assure you that by next council, God's willing, they are going to be here and the family will be complete. With this, I would like to welcome the leadership of the engineering family as we have it in this country. It is designed by law that all of these leadership are members of the COREN Council to clearly underscore the importance of the associations of the engineering family. I will allow each and every one of them to make a self-introduction. And as is the tradition, we are here to listen to them. They are supposed to give a brief of what they believe the assembly, comprising of all the members of each of these associations, should hear, to listen to them and update. I may not call it a scorecard, but it's a well-structured tradition that each and every one of them should speak to us under the moderation of the President and Chairman in Council of COREN. So I will first have the first round for self-introduction by each and every one of them. And then we will go in that sequence. You know, within this family, we have what you call the firstborn and we have what you call the lastborn. And they know themselves in that sequence. So I will invite the first child of the family to make some introduction, and thereafter you follow according to, you know, the order that has been established. Madam President.
Thank you. As the first child of the engineering family, I have the pleasure of introducing myself. My name is Engineer Margaret Aino Oguntala, fellow Nigerian Society of Engineers, and by the special grace of God and common will of Nigerian engineers, the President and Chairman in Council of the Nigerian Society of Engineers, the 34th President and the first female ever.
Thank you, my President. I will invite the second born now.
My name remains Engineering Technologies Right Honorable Dominic Udotan, a Knight of St. Mulumba, a Fellow of NATE. By the grace of God, the President and Chairman in Council of Nigerian Association of Technologies in Engineering, NATE.
What number?
I am the second born, 002.
Thank you. The third child is Niset, and that's the missing child that is not here. So I will skip that. I will go to the last one. Please go ahead. Last one.
Honorable Umar Usman Mekunkele, F. Naik is my name. The National President of Nigerian Association of Engineering Craftsmen and the Chairman in Council of NAIC. Thank you very much.
We have, as you expect, we have the the president of the ACEN. That is the firms, the consulting firms, is a member of the family and also a member of the Council of COREN. I will invite him to also introduce himself to the assembly. Yes.
Thank you. I am Kamsilim Alhaji Bukar, the 20th President for the Association of Consulting Engineers in Nigeria, representing over 600 consulting firms in the country. Thank you.
Having listened to the leaders of our engineering associations, I'm sure a lot of us have seen the logic of the fraternity as initiated by Professor Megad. And very soon, we will have the chairman of the Sector Skill Council of Engineering who will join this fraternity. He has already been co-opted into one of our council committees, the Registration, Personnel and Firm Registration Council Committee. That is the chairman that we just inaugurated today. is a member now of the registration committee of COREN, because we are going to soon begin to consider and approve the registration of artisans in the various discipline and segments in our country. We would like to thank the council, the MBTE, and other colleagues and partners that made this possible today. With this, I would like to invite once again the president of NSE to give us highlights of what she wants the assembly to hear from NSE. Madam President, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. Well, I'd like to just start by letting people know what the Nigerian Society of Engineers is all about. Because I'm sure that there are people here who might not know. The Nigerian Society of Engineers was established in 1958 to cater for the professional development of members at all times, and also to look after the welfare of engineers at all times. We also act as influencers to policies and decisions of government at all levels. At the moment, the society consists of 88 branches, which are spread across locations in Nigeria and in the diaspora. We have 83 branches here in Nigeria, and we have 82 branches here in Nigeria and 6 in the diaspora. In UK alone, we have 3 branches, one in London, one in Manchester, one in Glasgow, Scotland. We have one in Houston, Texas. We have one in the eastern region of Saudi Arabia. And most recently, we inaugurated the Calgary, Canada branch last Saturday. These branches are expected to function at grassroots levels in their various locations. And we also have the professional arm, made up of divisions and institutions, as it were, and they're all based on disciplines. We have 25 of them right now, and they cut across all the engineering disciplines that we have. And just a moment ago, I had a discussion with another group that would like to join the NSE and be registered as an institution under the NSE, and that's the Biomedical Engineering Association. So we have these divisions taking care of the needs of members in terms of the competencies and professional development, skills development, and so on. Our membership base stands at about 65,000. And we have various grades of membership. The first is the student membership. Then we have graduate members who are inducted at graduation. We have corporate members who can only become members after 4 years of graduation, including NYSC. And then we have the ultimate, which is the fellows, the fellowship grade of the Nigerian Society of Engineers. In all of this, the NSC does its best to ensure that at all times, members have access to professional development programs. We organize seminars, webinars, and from time to time, workshops to upskill our members and to ensure that they are kept abreast of emerging technologies so that they can comparatively compete with their counterparts all over the globe. And this we do at all times. And I would say that for this assembly, it's important to note that an assembly such as this is one that is recommended for every engineer to come here and learn. We've been here since yesterday, and I'm sure that each one of us is better for coming to this assembly. And so, as engineers, we must at all times ensure that we update ourselves. And it's only through gatherings like this that we can do so. And just in line with updating ourselves and ensuring that we come together, the Nigerian Society of Engineers is planning its conference for this year. It's an international conference, and the theme is Sustainable Engineering Solutions to Food Security and Climate Change. I'm sure that you will all agree with me that this theme is very apt for the situation that we find ourselves in Nigeria today. And it's only when we come together that we'll be able to prefer solutions. And this time we want to talk seriously, more seriously about practical solutions than theoretical. This conference, we are going to deviate from the usual technical papers and all, and have practical discussions. We have invited people who have experience in agriculture, and we have also invited people who are players and stakeholders in the power sector, and particularly the climate change. So it would benefit every engineer to attend that conference. And it's just to make sure that you not only get some of the points that you will need. I'm sure the president of COREN will be talking about that later, about the CPD, the Continuing Professional Development Units that you will need to renew your practicing license, your COREN practicing license. The COREN president will be talking about that later. But I want to assure you that if you attend, you have come here to the assembly this time, and if you keep yourself involved in programs that will improve your professional competencies, then you will be able to get enough CPD points to renew your practicing license next year. I will stop there for now. Thank you.
Can we give a round of applause? We only needed a highlight, and I'm sure Madam President has done justice to the expectation of the audience. Thank you, Madam President. Let me invite the President and Chairman in Council of NATE to take over the podium to address the Assembly.
The President and Chairman in Council of COREN have cited the immediate past President of COREN, our special guest and guest speaker, Engineer Professor Yokari Mekat. Let me stand on already established protocol. I'm here not to articulate new positions, but to evaluate what we have done for the past 1 year and see the level, the position we articulated in last year's COREN Assembly and the level of compliance. Let me start by thanking in a special way the President of COREN for sustaining the peace and unity within the engineering family. I will not fail to appreciate his role in running an all-inclusive government in the council. So thank you very much, and thank you, my colleagues in the council. In last year's assembly, we keyed into the roadmap of COREN on the Sydney and Dublin Accord. And I want to say sincerely that we are very happy with the Council that they have taken steps to ensure that the technologists are also recognized by the international community. Thank you. I will say this assembly is more of the technologist and the technician. We appreciate your effort in getting us hooked up. We advocated at the last COREN assembly for supervised industrial attachment. And we are happy with the COREN, with Council, that steps have been taken in this direction through the various Council resolutions. But sir, we want to appeal that as it was articulated by the NBTE Executive Secretary, that ITF should be involved in the industrial training, especially for the national diploma that have compulsory one-year attachment. This one-year industrial attachment that is compulsory before you go back for your HND should be incorporated into the ITF program so that graduates of national diploma will be supervised for that one-year industrial attachment. On the issue of inverted pyramid, which has been articulated by various speakers in this assembly, we still maintain the fact that this can be achieved when discrimination between HND and BSc is removed. What we are advocating for is that there should be the technologies cadre in the scheme of service, that this should be articulated so that in the technologies cadre, the technologies can be moved from level 14 to 15, even to 16, as technologists without crossing to the engineering cadre. This will go a long way to checkmate the inverted pyramid. And we want to appeal to COREN and our senior, the firstborn, the NSC, to help us articulate this position once again to the head of service and to the presidency to ensure that this discrimination and stagnation at level 14 is removed. On the issue of stamp and seal, which we articulated in the last COREN assembly, I want to say that we have submitted our memorandum to the council, and we strongly believe that the council will look into it. Because there is no way as a technologist, even your bungalow, you cannot design your bungalow. The house you want to live, bungalow, you cannot design. There is no way that a technologist cannot design and stamp and seal a level a bungalow. We are asking that stamp and seal should be given to technologists at a certain, within a certain limit, so that we have that sense of belonging. And I strongly believe that our senior brother will, the NSC and COREN, will look into this. On the issue of National Polytechnic Commission, we want to sincerely thank the current president and the executive secretary of NBTE, the co-heads of the polytechnics, for the steps that they have taken. The bill is already in the National Assembly, and we believe that by the grace of God, it will be passed, and the president will assent to it. And we still appeal to the current president to follow up on that bill for the establishment of the National Polytechnic Commission to foresee the running and the programs of the Polytechnic. Not, that assignment should be taken out from the NBTE. NATE strongly advocates for a special salary structure for the engineering family. I thank God we are talking about this year's theme is regulating engineering profession for shared prosperity. Over the years, the shared prosperity have been for the public. It is good we look inward. Many engineering personnel, from engineers to technologists to technicians and craftsmen, they are not faring very well in their places of work. We need to protect our own. An engineer or a technologist may not go baking. We should have that job satisfaction. Other remuneration should be built in so that the salary of engineers, technologists, technicians, and craftsmen will be a living wage. So we are appealing that this should be done. And we ask our senior brother, the NAC, when doing this, because they have the capacity, that it should be all inclusive for all the engineering family. Finally, I wish to appeal that in next year's engineering assembly, that COREN will take steps. We should take steps to ensure that other cadre are involved in paper presentation under some sub-teams. I said last year, the craftsmen and the technicians do not understand the language of the engineers, but the technologists understand the language of the engineers. The technicians understand the language of the technologists. The same thing with the craftsmen. So when we come, engineers, they talked about the in-depth designs and problem solving. It is it's not, the craftsman and the technician don't really appreciate it. But if we are given a chance to also present, we will be able to talk in the language our juniors will also understand. So I want to repeat that call, that other cadres of the family will be given chance to make some presentations apart from this family presentation. And again, that outside the COREN assembly, the family meetings can be held, maybe one to address problems of the engineering family outside the assembly. Once again, thank you very much, and I want to still thank my president for this opportunity, this wonderful opportunity given to us, and thank all of you for standing by. Let me announce that this year's AGM, Annual General Meeting of NATE, will hold from the 13th to 15th of November 2024 here in Abuja at Evelyn's Center. This year is election year, very important. all technologists are advised to turn up, and we appeal to senior brothers who are head of departments, they are the directors, they are the PEMSEC, to please release and sponsor the technologists to the NATE AGM come November 2024. Thank you and God bless.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, NATE President. The message is well passed and well noted. Can I invite the last one, the President of NAEC, to take the podium?
Thank you, my president. You see, NAEC is addressed as the last born of the family. Something happened along the way, but I don't know where the problem really is. History has it that engineering craftsmen are forerunners of engineering. Our thinking, imaginations has produced wonderful devices and monuments, which we all know. We have been in existence for the past 2,500 years. Our existence produced all other team of engineering today. But today we are addressed as the last born of the family. Where did we go? Where did it go wrong? Thank you very much. Mr. President, all protocol duly observed. Nigerian Association of Engineering Craftsmen, I want to believe that the 32nd Engineering Assembly was purposely organized because of craftsmen. All the paper presenters, everybody acknowledged that skill is one of the things we need for Nigeria to make progress. There is no history of a successful nation technologically and economically without technical vocational education. Unfortunately, we decided to abandon and neglect our own. I want to talk on three areas: training, practice, and registration. We have formal and informal sector that gave us training. The formal training is the technical college and vocational school, we all know. But today, what is the state of our technical colleges? We have just 126 technical colleges, as against 15,000 senior secondary schools. Do you think with this we can make progress technologically? Is it what is obtainable in the Western world? Those countries that has made progress, is it the way they train their own citizens? No. So, it's either, out of this 129 I'm talking about, most of them are just mere conventional secondary schools. Because what is happening there is just get your physics, maths, English, biology, and move to the polytechnic or move to the university. Priority is no longer given to the real skill. So most of the technical colleges today are producing half-baked craftsmen that are not adequately skilled to perform their expected jobs. That is the status of our technical colleges today, which is the only formal sector of acquiring training for the craftsman. Now, in the informal sector, we have a lot of training. This one we get up today, organized engineering training. Look, a senator or House of Rep member, we just get up one day, wedding a fabrication that's supposed to last a particular section, 3 months or 6 months. He'll conduct the training in just 1 week and give starter pack, and he believes he has trained skill. He has given skill to members. These are things that are happening. Every organization will just wake up one day and just say we are giving training to engineering craftsmen. So the training is, the informal sector is porous. I want to appreciate the COREN president and the executive secretary MBT for bringing up this issue of sector scale for engineering. It's a very, in fact, applauded program they have established, and we wish all these things I'm mentioning now will be corrected from this sector council. On the issue of practicing, if you go to our construction sites, our processing industries, 90% of the workforce are engineering craftsmen and artisans. So, to some extent, I believe in the inverted pyramid because the training is not adequately given to our people. But in the real practice, it's not true. It is only on the COREN register that we're having inverted pyramid. Yes, if you go to construction site, you see only 2 engineers or 1 engineer, but the remaining workforce, they are craftsmen and artisans. So how do you say we have inverted? Yes, on the register of COREN, we have inverted pyramids. And this is where we want to plead with our senior colleagues. If today as a craftsman, I register, I get licensed with COREN, and there's no difference between the person who also have skill and is not registered and licensed by COREN, we all move together. No distinction, no differences. What is the essence of registration? If you come to, for regulation, you are coming to the site, the only question you ask, who is the site engineer? If the site engineer is registered, you don't care. All other people are not registered, and it doesn't bother you. So how can a professional engineer be requiring the activities and service of quacks to carry out activities of engineering? That is what is happening. So for you to be a professional, request the services of professionals to carry out your engineering activities. If they are not registered, try to encourage them. The law of Nigeria said you should register, you should be licensed by COREN before you can practice. Yet, it is the engineers who are registered, they know about this law, are requesting the services of quacks to carry out engineering jobs. Please, I want to ask a question. How many craftsmen are in this hall? How many craftsmen? Please, can you raise up your hands? Craftsmen, how many of you are in this hall? My senior 001 and 002. Please and please. Please and please. When it comes to registering, to sponsoring people to events of this nature, you keep us there working. You come to Abuja here and enjoy yourselves. Thank you. So, you can imagine an MDA sponsoring 50 engineers at the recent COREN Engineering Assembly without sponsoring even a single craftsman. And you now say they are not registering. Is it the little mega they are getting that they will sponsor themselves to engineering assembly? Where they have sponsored you, they have paid your practicing license, they have paid everything for you. And you still leave that man there. You neglect, you abandon him. You are not encouraging the skilled craftsmen. Please, I want to use this opportunity to beg upon our senior colleagues. Carry us along. Don't abandon us. Don't neglect us. Thank you for the opportunity. And our people used to say a word is enough for the wise. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. You know, sometimes I think I've heeded a lot of advice that the engineering family and fraternity are not very sensitive to the political perspective of the profession. But I think we're already getting somebody. The last one is changing the narration. Because what this side expected him to deliver is giving us highlights and scorecard of how his leadership and membership fared for the last 1 year. That he abandoned completely. But he now went to the political arena and did excellently. Please, can we clap him and give him another applause? Thank you very much. Let me invite the president of ACEN to take the podium and also give us highlights and update the assembly of what ACEN has traversed through this 1 year. Engineer Councilor, please.
Can I go ahead here?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much, Mr. President, NSC President, NIC, NATE Presidents, and audience. Wish to stand on the existing protocol. Association for Consulting Engineers in Nigeria, ACEN, was founded in 1971 and then got registered sometime in 1979. It is a body of independent, private, qualified, and experienced registered consultancy firms. Before 2001, ACEN used to register individual members as individual members. But since 2001, we have stopped that, and then we only registered organized private registered consulting firms. And currently in our register, we have over 600 member firms. However, we only have around 300 financial members that are always paying their annual subscriptions and dues. We also sit in the Council of NSC, Nigeria Society of Engineers, as member of council, and then rightly observed, also we sit as a council member in COREN. We are having very good and synergetic relationship. We handle so many of the areas that concerns our professional expertise. We also belong to our African body, which is called FIDIC Africa. That is. And then at the global level, we are also belonging to International Federation of Consulting Engineering, who have over 1 million registered engineers as members, and then registered with over 100 countries. And most of us will know FIDIC by their condition of contract. Most of the condition of contract, aside the ICE condition of contract, we adopt globally in the areas of infrastructure contracts is from FIDIC. And that is the global body for the Association of Consulting Engineering. And then by weekend, on Sunday, that is starting from 8th to 10th, that is when we have our World Infrastructure Conference in Geneva. Immediately after the conference, I'm also due to attend. We are doing very well with COREN. We have a very good position in COREN. ACEN presidents chair the Engineering Regulatory Monitoring and Enforcement Committee for the Council of COREN. We are doing a lot of symbiotic and synergetic work for COREN. We are the voice of consulting engineering in Nigeria, but as you know from our name, as businessmen, and because of the turmoil in the economy, as you can see, we are having a lot of challenges. Many people, many of us, engineers, are guilty of practicing engineering consulting without registering either with COREN as a consulting firm or with ACEN, who is there to provide all the necessary ground for you to practice consulting business. Most of us do consulting business. But one thing I want to say here in this assembly is that out of the many of the records that we had from Engineer Samson Duna yesterday in terms of building collapse in the country, to the best of my knowledge, there is no single registered ACEN member that was found wanting or involved in any of these building collapse. So please join ACEN. For those that are already with us, also pay your dues. We're having these challenges, even to execute our operation. But as I earlier said, NSC, COREN are doing well to carry us along. And then we are trying to also have a breakthrough with the MDS, Ministry, Department, and Agencies of Government, to only deal and patronize registered consulting firms to help them execute in most of their projects. Believe me, if we really do the right thing by getting the qualified and certified engineering personnel and consultants to do all these menace of building collapse, road failures, infrastructural failures wouldn't have arisen. Thank you very much on this note. I appreciate you all.
Thank you very much, ACEN President. We thank you very much for all the leadership of our professional societies. I would like to take 3 points, and then we will invite interventions from the floor so that we can be able to round off this last session. The 3 critical areas I want to also mention, so that we will solicit for, we'll trigger discussion on them, are issues that were raised yesterday and today, and I think one was also raised today by the last one. I've carefully selected the 3, and I will put them to all of us so that we can be able to respond on them. One was consistently been mentioned by Madam President, which she solicited that I emphasize. We have agreed among ourselves that the area of renewal of licensing by all of us, practitioners, has to be in line with the international best practice. And in that wise, the Council of the Regulation of Engineering in Nigeria approved about 3 years ago what we call EPEC, Engineering Professional Examination Committee, and it has been gazetted. And that committee will very soon oversee and pretend over the examinations that will be carried out by all the associations, NSC, NATE, NICET, and then NAEC, to be coordinated by COREN. A robust framework has already been developed. Technology has been deployed in terms of the payment gateways that is going to be seamless and automated. All this has been concluded. Very soon we are going to test run the system, and we are going to have this convergence in the examinations that will be coordinated by the EPEC, as we call it, with the full participation of the associations. And this is going to answer what Madam President has been emphasizing in many places that she speaks. And that is renewal of practicing licensing is going to be open the requirement of certification by the associations that you have indeed scored the CPD unit. You have to present that certificate before COREN will approve your renewal of licensing to practice. We are going to make the formal signal on when this new arrangement is going to commence. We urge the leadership of the association to please inform your members. You have been part of this, inclusive of even the technology deployment. We have received training on how every member will pass through the association, meaning that you will no longer, COREN will no longer see you until you pass through the association. And this will mean, empowering the associations and then finally coming to COREN to be able to have your practicing license renewal, because you must go through the associations for them to certify you that you have indeed earned the score of professional development for that particular year. So this is one issue that we have resolved, and I'm very confident that we will soon make a public announcement on it so that we commence the implementation as it is enshrined in the law under a gazette called IPEC by the COREN Council. The second issue I want to raise was mentioned, I think, yesterday, and also mentioned by the last one. And this is about the welfare of engineering practitioners across the cadres. COREN, about 5-7 years back, commissioned ACEN to review a document that we call ECOPASS. That is the consulting and service fee that professionals in each of these cadres will charge when they deliver services. Like other professions in this country and all over the world. A document was produced, but it has not seen the light up to this moment for implementation. COREN has assigned ACEN to review that document. And I assure you, we are putting them timeline for them to fast track and make submission of the review charges. In simple words, so that let me respond to what last one is saying, that when we speak, we don't communicate with you. What we are trying to say is that very soon, COREN, NSC, NATE, NAEC, and NICET, and ACEN will formally announce to the nation how much each and every one of you that is duly registered will be charging for his service, whether it's per hour or per day or per week or per month. The engineering family must engage this country called Nigeria on that. We are experts, duly trained, and retrained, and lancing and certified. And so we will demand what is due to us when we deliver services to our country, whether in the public or in the private sector. So that document called ECOPASS may probably be one of the centerpiece of our discussion in next year's assembly, because we need to, critique it, finalize it, and showcase it and pass it to the country for the country to understand that we are indeed expert and professional and that should be duly compensated and have the appropriate remuneration in our country. The last item I speak at that I want to speak to is about this new National Skill Council. I believe a lot has been said about it, but I still want to mention one information. And that is the perspective of the levels, level 1 to 9, that has been enshrined in the framework, which the federal government of this country have directed the head of civil service to include in the scheme of service of this country. Last one, I want you to note that. And also second one, I want you to note that. So for me, the issue of disparity does no more arise. Because it is already there. The country has recognized level 1 to level 16. And everybody is being allowed, including even non-certified, non-formally educated. That is the implication of this new NSC, that even if you are not trained formally, the window has been provided for you from what you call prior learning level to progress up to level 16 in our country's scheme of service already. This is a policy that has been approved that all of us should strive to achieve it. It doesn't matter your qualification. The non-literate and non-numerate have been given the opportunity now to rise to level 16. So for me, I don't see that dichotomy again. Unless if somebody understands it better, please come and educate us more in COREN Council so that we understand what is the interpretation of this inclusion of level 1 to 9 in the scheme of service of this country. So this is what I want to add. And with this, I would like to open this session for discussion, intervention by some of you that have genuine and critical areas that you want to intervene. We will try to restrict it to some few of you for lack of time. And I will want to say maybe from this end, a maximum of 3 on my right-hand side, and another maximum of 3 on my left-hand side. Please, if you want to speak, you want to intervene, can we see your hand, and then you introduce yourself, and we allow you to speak. Yes, on my right-hand side, anybody that wants to intervene? Yes, we have seen 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. There is somebody last. Yes, 1, 2, 3. So please, the mic, go to them. 1, 2, 3, quickly.
Good afternoon, sir. My name is Engineer Udu Akpadaka, member, Nigeria Institution of Structural Engineers. My question is this. The same way COREN has given a leeway for NSC to conduct and regulate the examination for practicing engineers, we all know that NSC is an umbrella body for all engineers. So, targeted qualifying examinations, in my opinion, should be from institutions in that field. For example, my own institution of structural engineers, we have examinations. Such examinations should be recognized, and anybody registering for NSC should be through the institutions who have specialty practice. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. I think this is given. Let me not speak for Madam President. This is an internal structure that I'm sure it is in place inside NSC. NSC, like she said, has 15 divisions, which I'm sure, you have been carried along and the whole arrangement has been done. When you want to organize the examination, definitely the divisions under Madam President will be given the opportunity to make their inputs and then to implement that aspect. Thank you for reminding us on that. Second.
Thank you, Mr. President. My name is Engineer Obase Chokodi. I want to ask a question concerning the issue of certificate that you offer us. Because the certificate shouldn't be a tissue paper in our hands. Because without implementing this certificate and the dues we pay to state, telling them they need to use qualified individual to build, this certificate will always be tissue paper in our hands. You could imagine as of today, you will also see state government that is doing building structures without the supervision of a registered engineer. I want the board, what are they actually doing to make sure that this certificate that they are issuing, they should enforce it. Even if it means passing it to the National Assembly, this is what will happen if you build without the certification of a registered engineer. This is the offense. So that when we pay these dues, when we pay this renewal, we will see the effect to us that are paying, not after paying. The people that we are paying for, they will not even use us as registered engineer. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. Yes, the last person.
Good afternoon.
Yes.
Good afternoon, Madam President. My question is not a question. It is an appeal in the form of a question. My name is Engineer V. Timothy. I want to appeal that members, there should be coordination and love among which the professional engineers. For example, I had an experience, I was in private practice before I joined the civil service. And I discovered that now that I'm in the civil service, engineers do not love and project and champion the interests of other engineers. For example, I happen to be representing a consultant on a project, and the contractor was not using any engineer on the project. And I seek to know why a billionaire project of that magnitude, an engineer, particularly an engineer, Nigerian engineer, will not be involved. And the client was not supportive. In fact, I wrote formally that this contractor must ensure that he engage a registered engineer or an engineer. And the client did not cooperate, and the contractor went on executing the project without a registered engineer. I felt slighted. I felt like when I was in the private practice, I had that experience. So I wish to appeal to the COREN and indeed the NSC, Madam President, what a man can do, a woman can do much, much better. Please and please, there should be a framework that should be put in place in order to make engineers to be on the same page, to advance and to project and advance the interests of fellow engineers, even those that are not even registered. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Can we come back to the high table to get a response quickly?
Yes. Thank you, Mr. President. The first person who spoke talked about involvement of divisions in the examinations conducted by NSC. But I want to confirm here that the examiners are drawn from divisions. The examining council that we have in NSC is drawn from divisions. So that has already been taken care of. And as for protection, which was stated by the last speaker, all we need you to do, where there are issues or situations like that, please escalate to the nearest. And that's why we have branches all over Nigeria. Please escalate these issues so that we can take them up. I remember that in 2021, when there was this, the 21-story collapse building collapse in Lagos, the issue that we had with the structural engineer was that it did not report to NSC or even to his division, to his institution. So there was no way we could protect him. He simply resigned and left. And when the problem happened, everybody still named him because his name remained on the board. So please let us know what is happening to you, and we will take it up as far as we can. Thank you.
Can we go to my left-hand side, please? 3 interventions. 1, 2, 3. You know, just, yeah, give him.
My name is Engineer Ofem Ite, a superintendent of police attached to Works Department, the Nigerian Police Force. My question is, considering what we are suffering in the engineering department in the force, in quotes, in my organization. We pay our dues. We do everything because we love the profession. And now, inside the department, somebody who is outside the engineering department will be sent in the department to head you. And every design, recommendations, and technical report given as an engineer, the person can decide to throw it out without your information. And when the work is to site, you will never be invited. My question is now, what are the measures the COREN is taking to salvage this situation? Citing the Medical Council, the Medical and Dental Council of Nigeria, when their body or when their personnel were having the same issues in the Nigerian police. The council now moved to the police headquarters and solicited to their members, and these people were given triple rank ahead. So now, coming to COREN, what is the benefit that we that love COREN as forces, what are we benefiting? And what are the measures taken in place? If they are not measures, I want to plead that please let the COREN stand up and help this situation for us. Thank you.
Mr. President, the Council for Regulation of Engineering in Nigeria. I salute you, sir. My name is Engineering Crafts, Victor Ikechukwu Arema, past president, and a past member of a COREN Council from 2011 to 2016. I have two things to present here and appeal, an appeal and process. One is the prefix attached to the certificate of craftsmen, engineering craft, but we are called Mr. I look at the engineering setup, calling the members of the COREN, NSC, an engineer, technologist, engineering technician, then Mr. to craftsmen. It's unfair, Mr. President. I'm appealing for you to give that rumination as you have started with good move. Then the second one is the issue of sponsorship, to elaborate more on what the IEC president, the elegant president said. Out of the crowd we have here today at this assembly, I know some of them will make some efforts to organizations for sponsorship. Like me, I made. But the engineers in those organizations select themselves to the management to sponsor them. No craftsmen will be sponsored. Please, my president, sir, your position is yielding for this 23rd Engineering Assembly, proving like the craftsmen are coming up. And with your good leadership, we appeal on behalf of the craftsmen at this hall. You can see the number of craftsmen that attended this assembly. It's not up to 10, but you have hundreds of engineers. Thank you, sir. Please.
Yes, Good afternoon, sir. My name is Engineer Bidemi Bello. And I want to make appeal to COREN because sustainability is very key at this crucial time. We are all gathered here today. It may be kind of an appeal, but I can assure that 89% of those here have not gotten any to do in the last 1.5 years. If I'm lying, we can put it to a vote. Now, most of our jobs in this country are being given to Chinese or any other Lebanese company. Just yesterday, And on Monday, Kaduna State government signed an agreement, a bilateral agreement with a Chinese company, begging them to come and work in our country. And we have civil engineers should be more here, followed by mechanical engineers. Lagos State did the same thing. And we are talking about shared prosperity. What are we sharing? I beg to differ. There might be no COREN in another 20 years if we are not careful, because everybody will look for what they will eat. I think it's time we rise up and be the agent of change, advising our government, policymakers, to please, let's look inward. Nigeria will not grow if we are still calling on the Chinese. And I'm sure consultants, Aken, you can bear me witness that most of the projects the Chinese have done, as they are doing it, they are repairing it. Ministry of Works, I can call roads in this country, and we'll say we don't have work. There's no time we'll be willing to pay for our license if we don't have work to do. I beg to differ. Please, I think it's high time we all rise up to this change and say, let us build the country. If we don't build the country, COREN has failed us, NSC has failed us, NATI has failed us, AKEN has failed us, NAEC has failed us. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for these very beautiful interventions. I will invite my council members to respond, and then I will also respond to some of the points. I think most of what I'm hearing is either lack of information or lack of not knowing what steps have been taken. But I'll allow my colleagues to respond, but I will respond.
Thank you, Mr. President. Let me quickly respond to the policeman. We have had cases where such things happen to people, and what they did was to report to us. I'll say again that we are all responsible. What he has told us today is the responsibility of every one of us, and not just the leadership. If we don't know, we cannot act. So see something, say something, and we will do something. I will give you an example. In Nasarawa State, the GM Water Corporation a new GM was appointed, a non-engineer. And we wrote to the governor because the branch chairman wrote to us to complain. We wouldn't have known. So we have written to the governor, and the change has been made. We also had this issue of the hydrology, hydrology agencies. We have written to the federal government. So please, once anything like that happens, if somebody is being placed ahead of you, who shouldn't be, let us know and we will act. As for the prefix, well, your certificate reads engineering craftsman. It's an individual thing. And I will use myself as an example. When I was doing my IT, as far back as 1985, I was under a man who never allowed anybody to call him anything but engineer. Nobody could address him without that prefix. There were a lot of other people in the Warri refinery where I was doing my internship, and who did not care, including my husband, who is an engineer, and people were calling him Mr. Oguntala. But this man, Engineer Obi, you dare not call him Mr. Obi. He will tell you that he went to school, spent 5 years instead of 4 years, like the lawyers, and then he went for certification by COREN and got to get that prefix engineer. It was a motivation for somebody like me. And it was one of the reasons I quickly did my COREN after I graduated, because I wanted to be addressed as engineer. So if anybody addresses you as Mr., you have a right to tell the person that you have earned a lot more than that, and the person will respect that. So, and then the matter raised by the last person. Very early this year, the president and we went on a visit to the Minister of Interior to discuss this matter of expatriates coming to Nigeria and not leaving, and how we could get our jobs back. Let me use Trump's language. And a lot of things have been done. The president is going to expatiate on that. But I just want you to know that we are doing a lot and we are doing the much that we can do. You will also realize that a lot of these things are political. I was in Osun State about 2 weeks ago, and I saw there that the governor is undertaking so many projects. He launched a 100 billion project, and all the contractors and consultants are Nigerian firms run by Nigerian engineers. What I did was to ensure that I told him and gave him commendation. Of course, it became a political issue between APC and PDP. So a lot of things, the things that are happening here is political. We went to Uyo, Akwa Ibom State, and in Akwa Ibom State, they have a company headed by a firm, a Nigerian engineering firm, Hensec Nigeria Limited. They call that firm the Julius Berger of Akwa Ibom, and they are doing very well. So when we see such, we have gone to, at least I've paid visits to ministers and governors this year, and we have continuously told them the reasons why we must have engineers running all the projects in Nigeria, because it is only Nigerian engineers that can develop Nigeria. We tell them that everywhere that we go, and we'll continue to do that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I would like to respond to the last speaker or the last questionnaire, colleague. As much as we all are on the same page and believe that there are issues, problems, we should also appreciate the fact that the leadership of the COREN, the NSC, and other associations are actually doing great work in trying to address some of these issues that is facing us all. Like it's a work on progress. We are making a lot of efforts. You must be most aware that there is the amended COREN Act, and then also the Executive Order 5, which was, not long ago, all were signed to law. And then also, courtesy of the new COREN leadership, the roadmap, the COREN new roadmap that is being implemented and in progress. The whole of ERM, all these issues you are talking about, is about ERM. And I, by the privilege, I'm heading that committee, and we are getting a lot of, changes that is happening. But as I said, it's work on progress. It's one thing to have the issues, and then it's another thing to, ensure compliance and enforcement. And this is what the new leadership is being doing. It has been doing, and we are, putting so many things. The structure is being put in place, and then awareness is being created. Templates and forms are being created, because if they were monitoring, and we used to monitor, but the enforcement had been an issue. And with the new, structure and approach, believe me, in no time will going to overcome most of these issues that you are talking about. Yes, as rightly mentioned by the NSC president, some of them are political, but all of us must be ambassadors to our profession. If I should tell you my experience, I have enjoyed certain jobs because of COREN, being busy, ERM visiting some construction site where this quota and then local content is being addressed. I have enjoyed that one as far back as 2011 or 2010, I think, so to say. And then currently my own governor in Borno State, he happened to be a professor and an engineer, and he is trying to ensure this issue of local content. And as one of the consultants in some of the projects, we ensure that we try to bring the COREN laws, so it may not be totally wrong to say that there must not be, international or Chinese contractors. But we should be talking more of content, local content, how many of us, and then also the expatriate quota issue. So to say that in years to come there may not be COREN and all that, I don't think that mindset is in order. We should see it as work in progress. It may be in snail phase, It may be in snail pace, but a lot is being done. If not because of COREN, not because of NSD, I used to engage my young colleagues. Because we used to talk like that out of emotion and all that. But definitely, we may not have this umbrella and forum to discuss our problems and issues, and then have a voice to take it to the political. It's the efforts of the leadership that they have to go to National Assembly to make this COREN Act amended to suit and then solve these our issues, and also to get this the executive order where all these issues that you are mentioning is being addressed. So it's work in progress, and definitely in time to come, we're going to address most of these issues. Yes, there are a lot of, our opportunity, local opportunities that is being supposed to be given to our local engineers, local technicians, craftsmen, and technologists is being handled by the foreigners, but a lot is being put in place. And the new ERM, when it's fully being implemented, it will going to tackle most of these issues. And we are in the near future, definitely we're going to see that. And maybe the current president will going to say something about that, because it was actually slated that the inauguration of the NTC, that is National Technical Committee of the ERM, will be inaugurated in this assembly. But I think he's in better position to tell us what happened. But definitely, if it is in full operation, ERM, and now with even ERM and E, and enforcement, so definitely some of these concern will be properly dealt with. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Yes, Nate?
Thank you, Mr. President. Mine is a general reaction. I will advise that, because most of us in this hall, we don't belong to our professional body at branch level. Some of us are only, we register with COREN, and we come for COREN assembly. When you are an active member of your branch, be it NSC, NATE, NAEC, NICET, whatsoever problem that you have in your place of work, you will channel it through your branch chairman. From there, it will be escalated to your president, and from there, it will get to council, because the president is a member of council. And that is when your problem will be treated, not waiting until the next COREN or engineering assembly, you bring it up. So please, let us, there are a lot of issues. All these issues mentioned here would have come up through our various presidents to council, and it will be well addressed. Let me add my voice to the NSC president and the Arcane president on the issue of jobs being given to expatriates. I believe with what the president has done in the council, the 10 sectors, the sectorial ERM and E, once they are effectively inaugurated and are functional, most of these issues will be addressed, because they will be at the various sectors to question, is the person a registered engineer, technologist, technicians, or craftsman? Do you have the required number to operate what you are doing, whether it's an expatriate firm or indigenous firm? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. President. My intervention is going to be on the issue of the prefix. You see, the Act, the COREN Act, captured that, for example, the engineering craftsman will append a craftsman at the end of his name. That is what the Act is saying. But I want to believe that with the leadership of the present council of COREN and with the council fully seated here, I know the previous president have tried this. I want to believe and assure you that in the next amendment that will be done on COREN Act, that will be captured. We want to be an engineering craftsmen. It is our own profession. We are called engineering craftsmen. And you are dictating the title we should bear. It's one of the problems we're having. We say we want to be called engineering craftsmen. You say, no, it is Mr. You are putting for us. For what? So I want to assure you that with council fully seated, we are going to present this to council, and I believe the leadership of the council will forward it for amendment. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I will try to take about two issues, I think, basically. And I think it cut across a lot of the interventions. Let me try to first say that because of all these agitations, which are well recognized for long, and we realize that they have become a sort of disenchantment to our registrants, whether engineers or technologists or technicians or craftsmen, as the case may be. In the roadmap that some of you mentioned, some very critical decisions were taken last year, which we presented at the last year's assembly. I'll quickly mention a few of them, and then I will conclude with, the instrument that allows us to do regulations properly. We recognize that COREN was over-centralized. As a regulator, COREN was not really reaching out. The response of COREN on issues across the country was very poor. And the issue of the personnel that will effectively go and do the ERM and E were inadequate. So the first thing we took was to decentralize COREN. And I'm happy to tell you now that we have 7 regional offices in Enugu, in Ibadan, in Port Harcourt, in Kano, in Gombe, and FCT. And we also recognize Lagos as a special location. So we now have 7 regional offices in the country. We had a deficit of state offices that were 8. We sat down with the Minister of Housing and Urban Development, though we don't have the finances to create the offices, but he has agreed to give us office accommodation in the Federal Secretariat in each of these other states. So before end of this year, COREN will have functional 7 regional offices and 36 and FCE state offices. The issue of the personnel, we were given waiver by the federal government in 2022, about 80 staff to be recruited. But by last year, the new federal government changed its position and removed us from funding. So that opportunity for us to have additional staff just vanished like that. But we didn't rest there. We went to NYSC DG and had a very deep interaction with him, and he has approved for us that each and every state offices, we should apply for NYSC at any given batches, that he will allocate us 6 NYSC corpers that we selected. We selected designated corpers, and he will be providing that for us for the time being in each of our state offices across the country. Again, the aspect of we are not responsive, we are not listening, we are not this, we are being sidelined, that we recognize already. But I want to mention to you that these issues are issues of law and enforcement, as initiated by Professor Megad. So we identified what are our instruments that enable COREN to enforce a lot of what you are saying. Our act that was amended 2018 was not published in the National Gazette. Now it has been published last 2 months. Executive Order 5 that we championed and was ascended for by the President discuss in detail. Please, I would like each and every one of you to go and study Executive Order 5. The issue of expatriates, the issue of local content, the issue of mentoring our pupil engineers by the expatriate, the issue of downsizing the expatriate quota over a cycle, so many things, the issue of design offices of the multinationals in Nigeria. There are about 10 items that empower us to take charge of a lot of these things in this country in Executive Order 5. But one thing was lacked. We need to have Executive Order 5 and drew out regulations that we will gazette, because it is the gazetted regulations that will allow us to enforce. Only last week, I was with a team, we were with the chairman of ICPC. We had an MOU signed with ICPC 2014. But because of the gaps that we identified, we went back to him last week. We have set up a committee to review the MOU to enable us to enforce these new regulations that we are developing. And I want to tell you this, that for the last 1 year, we have carefully sat down and reviewed the amended act. And we have produced 10 new regulations already that are already submitted to the Federal Gazette Office, and they have been gazetted. They will be delivered to us by next week. Now, these gazettes are what we require to go and enforce all the regulations, the enforcement that you are being sentimental about. We recognize them, but you cannot go and enforce when you don't have the backing of the law. And what COREN has slept up for more than 10 years was developing the specific regulations that will allow you to enforce. I'll give you one example that is very dear to many of us. The enforcement of admission quota into universities and polytechnics, of enrollment, the indexing of students when they are in university or polytechnic, the execution of SAWES and SUEB, the induction, the oath taking, the residency that is mandatory 1 year. All of this, we know them. But there was never a regulation that was gazetted for us to enable us to go to JAM, the registrar of JAM, and challenge him by law that he must regulate the enrollment of students in engineering program in universities. But now that regulation is already out, it has been gazetted. And I assure you, before the end of this year, we will go and engage the registrar of JAM. We will regulate the enrollment of engineering students in Nigerian universities because we have the law backing us now. And to the last person that was talking about taking our jobs, that we recognize for long. I want to inform him that in 2004, the then president, Olusegun Obasanjo, constituted a presidential committee to look at this issue, this phenomenon of multinational taking our job in the engineering sector. There was a report. AMPEC constituted another committee to develop the white paper on that. And the white paper was presented to PEC in 2005. And PEC approved the full implementation of that white paper, which was never done. In 2012, the then president, Goodluck Jonathan, resuscitated that white paper that was similar to in content with the Executive Order 5, and reiterated and reapproved that that white paper has to be implemented. Again, it was not implemented. We now have resuscitated it last year. We have given some of our senators in the National Assembly and some of our members who are engineers by right, chairing specific committees in the Senate and in National Assembly, to escalate that white paper to demand that the federal government must insist of implementation of that white paper. Once we get that white paper being implemented, a lot of things are there that complement the content of the Executive Order 5. And then with the regulation we are turning out and gazetting, I assure you, you are going to see drastic changes in the enforcement, in the ERM framework that we have developed. And like the President of ACE mentioned, hitherto we have been regulating practically one sector, construction and building sector. When you are going out for ERM all over the country, it's about building site, it's about construction site. And the entire country seems to recognize that engineers are only interested in construction and building sector enforcement and regulation, which is not correct. From last year to date, we have expanded our ERM activities into 10 sectors now. And rightly so, according to our act, according to the law. We now have ERM in oil and gas, in power, in mining, in telecommunication, in agro-allied, of course in the construction and building sector, in manufacturing, in transportation, in maritime. And each of these ERMs in each of these sectors are going to be assisted by 2-3 things. The council has approved what you call engineering intelligence whistleblowing. You cannot be a regulator without whistleblowers, because a lot of things are insidious. You must carefully sit down and establish, train, and license whistleblowers in each of these sectors. Ladies and gentlemen, let me not take much of our time. There are a lot of issues, a lot of new input and new interventions that I believe, I'm very confident, once we have the opportunity to implement them, you will see difference in what is happening in our country as far as engineering sector is concerned. I would like to, for lack of time, I would like to invite you to join me to appreciate our leaders in the fraternity of engineering for coming up to update us with some of, I think, the critical things. If you allow Madam President to give us a catalog, that's why I ask her not to come, just give us highlights. A lot of achievements are there. And I would like to solicit on their behalf, please, your encouragement, your support. We are trying to change the landscape, and we cannot do it without your active participation and support. A lot of you are going to find yourself involved in many of our ERMs where you are staying, where you are stationed. That is one of the key essence of decentralizing COREN, going to the grassroots to make sure you participate in trying to do what we are expected to do for the nation. So please join me to thank Madam President and the other president of the other associations. I also like to tell you that we have come to the end of this very important session. And I also would like you to also thank yourself for giving us the audience and the time to interact with you. Thank you once again, and God bless.
Thank you very much. Can we applaud them better as they return to their seats? Thank you very much. They'll take photographs after which they return to their seats. Thank you. Can we please applaud them as they return to their seats? Thank you. Moving on, I would like to call on the chairman of the technical committee, Engineer Professor Abdul Karim Nasser, FNRC, to come up to present the draft resolutions for general contributions and adoption. A round of applause, please.
The President, okay. The President and Chairman in Council, the Council for the Regulation of Engineering in Nigeria, the first female president of the Nigerian Society of Engineers, our own elegant engineer, Margaret Aina Ogutala, our keynote speaker, Engineer Professor Megat Johari ibn Megat Muhammad Noor, Chair Dublin Accord and Governing Group at International Engineering Alliance, as well as President, Malaysian Society of Engineering and Technology. All other past presidents here present for COREN and NSC, council members of COREN, the chairman, please permit me to adopt the already established protocol at this point. I have before me the draft resolutions issued at the end of the COREN 32nd Engineering Assembly held at the Disney Dome, Abuja. The theme, Regulating Engineering Profession for Shared Prosperity in Nigeria. The Council for the Regulation of Engineering in Nigeria held its 32nd Engineering Assembly at Disney Dome, Abuja from Monday 2nd to Wednesday 4th September 2024. In a bid to enhance prosperity in engineering towards the economic advancement of Nigeria, the theme adopted for the assembly was Regulating Engineering Profession for Shared Prosperity in Nigeria. The assembly explored how the regulation of the engineering profession can contribute to shared prosperity in Nigeria, addressing various facets, such as technical vocational education and training, engineering regulation monitoring and enforcement, codes and standards, and sustaining self-financing for effective engineering regulation, professional standards, infrastructure development, economic growth, and social equity. The special guest of honor invited at the opening ceremony was His Excellency Bola Ahmed Tinubu, GCFR, President and Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces, Federal Republic of Nigeria. The chief host was the Honorable Minister, Federal Minister of Works, Senator Engineer Nweze Umahi, ably represented by Mr. Aliyu Abubakar Abdullahi, Director, Human Resource, Federal Ministry of Works. The host was the Honorable Minister, Federal Capital Territory, Barrister Eze Nwenye Sowike, CON. The opening ceremony was chaired by Engineer Eloka AJF NSC, Managing Director, CEO, Dover Engineering Limited, ably represented by Dr. Augustine Onyali, General Manager Projects, Dover Engineering Limited. The keynote address was delivered by Engineer Professor Megat Johari ibn Megat Muhammad Noor, Chair Dublin Accord and Governing Group at the International Engineering Alliance and President, Malaysian Society of Engineering and Technology. Other special guests include about 6 governors, 5 represented, and Nasarawa State Governor, His Excellency Engineer Abdullahi H. Sule FNSC,
was actually here with us. Honorable Minister, Federal Ministry of Housing and Urban Development, Honorable Architect Ahmed Musa Dangiwa, Senator Iyola Omisore, FNSC, and so many other dignitaries who were here with us. Goodwill messages were delivered by the representative of the governors and the governor of Nasarawa State. The sub-themes presented were: 1, repositioning technical and vocational education and training, TVET in Nigeria; regulating the practices of engineering professionals through development of codes and standards, regulations, and their enforcement; repositioning of ERME, investigation of engineering failures, prosecution, sanctioning of engineering professionals; and finally, sustaining self-financing for effective engineering regulation. The 32nd Engineering Assembly was well organized and held successfully. There were also syndicate meetings of professional association and a workshop on admission requirements into Sydney and Dublin Accords of IEA for the engineering family in Nigeria under the leadership of COREN, as well as an interactive session on the technicalities of OBE implementation, outcome-based education. The design and model of new COREN headquarters office located in Jai, Abuja, was showcased at this engineering assembly. The assembly was attended by 8,209 participants, which comprised of 6,919 engineers, 525 technologists, 73 technicians, 60 craftsmen, and 47 non-engineering personnel. Virtual attendees were 547 engineers, 32 technologists, and 2 technicians. Also in attendance were 391 spouses, other invited guests, and stakeholders from all walks of life. The annual Engineering Assembly is the biggest gathering of engineering professionals aimed at evaluating, discussing, and proffering solutions to issues of interest to members of engineering family and the nation at large. The main highlight of this presentation are the observations and resolutions. At the end of the 32nd Engineering Assembly, the following observations and corresponding resolutions were made. I'll present the observation as well as the recommendation immediately. Number 1, the Assembly identified that engineering failures occur because of lack of adequate monitoring and enforcement. COREN and other stakeholders must begin to monitor and enforce compliance of all engineering ethics, codes, and standards, and sanction engineering practitioners and organizations who default from the provision of the status in the course of their practice or operations, as spelled out in the regulation to ensure safety in engineering practice. 2, skilled engineering practitioners are inadequate in number, making it impossible for the realization of the required industrialization and technological advancement which Nigeria needs. COREN and other stakeholders should develop engineering human capital with adequate regulation in order to build Nigeria's energy sector and infrastructure, thus allowing greater industrialization and technological advancement, and consequently eliminating poverty towards shared prosperity. The use of non-qualified professionals for engineering jobs was a major problem observed by the Assembly. The Assembly proposed the identification and usage of qualified, registered, and licensed engineering practitioners for all engineering jobs. Inadequacy of global recognition of engineering qualifications, non-mobility of practitioners, especially engineering technologists and technicians. Deepening of minimum academic benchmark within outcome-based education to ensure the mobility of Nigerian engineering qualification and other cadres. Inadequate standardization of engineering practice. Completion of all engineering processes required in all engineering projects to attain the fullness of the life cycle, upholding of professional ethics, and protection of registered professionals against quacks. Non-sustainability of the engineering practice. For the sustainability of engineering ethics, every practitioner must be equipped with leadership and accountability, education and training, professionalism, engagement and communication, governance and measurement. Loss of lives and property by engineering activities of quacks. Registration and annual licensing of engineering practitioners should be enforced to ensure the safety of lives and property, giving back value for money. Issues surrounding codes of ethics, technical standards, and regulatory frameworks are broad and dynamic, and it concerns all spectra of engineering practitioners and organizations. The development and review of codes, standards, and regulatory frameworks be carried out by COREN in collaboration with engineering professional associations, industry stakeholders, government agencies, and educational institutions to enhance compliance, address emerging challenges, sustainability, and resilience, and promote continuous improvements within the engineering profession. This can be achieved through the establishment of a standing committee to develop Nigerian engineering standard. That since education is considered as the key to effective development strategies, technical and vocational education and training must be master key that can alleviate poverty, promote peace, conserve the environment, improve the quality of life for all, and help to achieve sustainable development according to UNESCO. Government at all levels, organized private sectors, and other stakeholders should synergize to fully implement the provisions of National Education Policy on TVET 2013 in order to unleash the staggering benefit of new skills that have been identified as global currency for 21st century economies. The major challenges facing TVET that hinders its effectiveness in skill development in Nigeria include poor funding, curricular irrelevance, poor inadequate infrastructure and equipment, stigma and perception of TVET graduates, policy and regulatory frameworks, insufficient or lack of industry partnership and collaborations, among others. Government at all levels, organized private sector, regulatory bodies and stakeholders should, as a matter of economic revitalization, significantly increase funding, improve infrastructure, promote TVET, review curriculum, foster industry collaboration, as well as monitor and evaluate TVET programs. Many TVET institutions lack qualified instructors with industry experience and up-to-date skills, thus affecting the quality of graduates. Proprietors of TVET institutions, organized private sectors, and other stakeholders should, as a matter of sustainability, encourage the training and retraining of TVET instructors in order to develop capacity of the instructors to deliver high-quality training. TVET opportunities are limited in rural areas, especially for women with vulnerable groups facing barriers in accessing TVET programs, hence limiting access and equity. Also, that TVET lacks entrepreneurship training. Government at all levels, organized private sectors and NGOs and other stakeholders should, as a matter of economic revitalization, significantly expand TVET access to the marginalized groups and disadvantaged areas. Also, conscious efforts should be made by TVET program and institutions to integrate entrepreneurship skills in their programs. COREN is faced with a host of challenges owing to the withdrawal of federal government from funding the council's operation. Some of the challenges include financial instability owing to fluctuations in revenue streams, over-relying on fees and fines, limited investment in capacity building and resource allocation, and risk of regulatory capture and equity concerns. These challenges can be addressed through effective self-financing models that promote accountability and transparency in engineering regulation. There is also the aspect of regulatory bodies implementing cost recovery mechanisms in order to ensure that the cost of regulation, the cost recovery mechanism can be included by general taxpayer funds. Cost recovery mechanism can include charging annual fees or levies based on size, revenue, or risk profile of the engineering entity. The goal is to ensure that those who directly benefit from regulatory oversight bear the burden of regulation by participating in financing the regulatory body. Strengthening the capacity of COREN, both in terms of human resources and technological infrastructure, is essential for enhancing its regulatory effectiveness and efficiency. As a result, terminating federal government funding limits investment in training, professional development, and modernization initiative, which threatens to keep COREN out of touch with evolving engineering practices and emerging regulatory challenges. There is need for COREN to plan for the commencement of a one-year compulsory residency program and oath-taking ceremony for engineering graduates across the country and introduce continuous professional development certification for the renewal of annual practicing licenses. Ineffective enforcement and compliance monitoring. Council must have and maintain a robust database. The plan is to have NYC core members engaged for continuous monitoring and data gathering of false sites. Over the years, there has been the issue of false declaration of engineers on board of directors of organizations and institutions involved in practice of engineering. To eliminate this crime, the ERM program introduced the board member form, which in addition will help to emphasize the appointment of qualified engineers to positions of appropriate engineering responsibilities. Any default, offenses, or irregularity observed with regard to the use of the board membership forms ought to be reported to the registrar for necessary actions or enforcement. Improper approach in directing and managing the ERM program. It is proposed that an integrative approach be adopted in directing and managing the ERM program. Thereafter, it will be easy to fashion out adaptive regulations that will form the basis for proactive monitoring of the practices of engineering in Nigeria. With the increased rate of collapse of structures, roads, aerodrome pavements, failures of turbine blades, explosion of pressure vessels and boilers, etc., with attendant loss of lives and property. Investigations carried out on some of these incidents revealed that improper design, poor quality material, improper site practices, and clients who failed to use qualified registered professionals in the execution of projects have been the major causes. In carrying out investigations, the following processes are critical in order to understand and mitigate future occurrences of engineering failures. These incident reporting, root cause analysis, forensic investigation, and lessons learned. Conclusion. Regulating the engineering profession involves setting and enforcing standards for education, certification, and practice. These standards ensure that engineers possess the necessary skills and knowledge to perform their duties competently and ethically. Regulating the engineering profession in Nigeria is a foundation for achieving shared prosperity and sustainable development. Effective regulation ensures that engineering practices adhere to the highest standard of safety, quality, and ethics, which are essential for the successful implementation of infrastructure projects and technical advancement. By investing in a strong regulatory framework and embracing a culture of continuous improvement and ethical conduct, Nigeria can unlock the full potential of its engineering sector, paving the way for a prosperous and sustainable future. In conclusion, the participants commended the efforts of COREN for organizing the thought-provoking 32nd Engineering Assembly, prepared by the Technical Subcommittee. Thank you very much. Where is the President? Any inputs? Yes, now. Any inputs? Mr. What is working? I shouldn't be the one. Yes, something happened.
Ladies and gentlemen, you've heard the draft resolutions of our 32nd Assembly presented by the team of the technical crew that have put this together. As is the tradition, we would like to get your feeling about the content of the communique, the resolutions rather. Are there areas that some of you are very critical about, or it is a consensus adoption we are going to have? We will open for the next 5 minutes to get the response of the Assembly so that the technical committee will take note of whatever you want them to note. We want to have a very good representation of what you have endorsed. So again, we will quickly ask the Assembly to give us your nodding, whatever you feel. But we have to do it in a very snappy way, kind of, because we have to leave this hall in the next 10 minutes. I'm sure all of us are very much aware of our tradition. The event managers will take charge of this hall and change its configuration in the next 2-3 hours to organize a stage for us to have our much awaited and expected dinner that we are going to have this evening. So in that wise, I would like to advise. And let's quickly, anybody here, one person on this, again, one person here and one person here. So we have gotten one there, one here. Anybody here? Nobody? One there. Very good. So we have identified, okay, four persons. Please give it to the immediate past registrar of COREN here. Yes, here. No, come. Please raise your hand here. We have another one here, one here, one here.
So I want to commend the effort of the presenter, but if we can have it on the screen, it will help us to quickly show what we are trying to do. Number one is that in the list of special invited guests, the Nasarawa State governor was present physically, so he should be number one. Representative should come after that. Then number two, we shouldn't have reference on Communic. It shouldn't be reference. It's the decision of the House, what we have agreed upon. So there shouldn't be any reference made on it. And number three, the observations from number one should have started with the title of the main conference. The first paper was purely on shared prosperity. We completely ignored that first paper in the Communic. So we need to get a summary of that very important first lead paper into that group. Then the style of presentation should emphasize the theme of the conference, which is professional for shared prosperity in Nigeria. We shouldn't present it as if council is doing nothing. We are only building on what is already, resolutions already adopted by the council, and that's why we are having the conference. So whatever we are saying in any of those items should reflect effort already put in. And this is where we are going to next. That is my observations. I hope we
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Professor Odigiri. Yes, there's another one person on this lane. I don't know who is he. Okay. Please raise your hand, the second person.
Mr. President, just one quick point.
Okay.
The last number, the last point. I want us to restrict ourselves to examples of engineering failure we have in Nigeria. The examples, the mechanical engineering examples are more of theoretical examples. Failure due to turbine blade and pressure vessel explosion. Let's restrict the examples we are putting a resolution to the ones we have identified in Nigeria.
Thank you. Noted. Yes, on this side, is there any other? Okay, here. Which one?
Maybe they have said what.
No, but it's not raising his hand now. Who is the next person? Here, come this way. Yes, this person. Yes, give it to him.
My name is Engineer Dr. O.J. Oyibode. On the first page, the title, if we can go to the first, the title. The slide, the first on the title is good. We have the This Day Dome, Abuja. We can put comma Nigeria. We can let them know. Anyway, anybody may be reading from anywhere in the world. We can still put Nigeria there. Then at the first point of mention of where they put OBE, we can put outcome-based education. Then OBE in the bracket. So I really salute the effort of the technical committee. Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you. Here we have one person here on this. Yeah, please raise your hand. Let's identify you. Okay, he has gotten the mic already. So go ahead.
Good afternoon, sir. Good afternoon, sir. My name is Engineer Abdurrahman Musa from Kaduna. My concern is on the one-year internship post-graduation. I think the most important thing here is in and out is during the NYSC.
No, please. We are talking of the presentation of the resolutions, not the issue. Don't discuss the issue. That issue has been settled.
Okay, because
we want you to critique what is presented. If you have an issue to discuss on that, don't bring it into this resolution. You can write us a memo so that you convince council to drop the residency. We have already gone far. So sit down and write a memo, but comment on what is presented here now.
Okay, thank you, sir.
With this, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to request you to please join me to thank the technical committee for a job well done. I assure you we are going to improve upon what has been observed. We would like to make the communique. The resolutions are resolutions of what transpired here. Please remove anything that we did not discuss. It's a reflection of what the Assembly discussed and agreed upon. If you bring it to me as the chairman, I will remove anything that is alien, that is foreign to our deliberations, our proceedings in these 2 days. That I will certainly do. So please let the technical committee try and do that on my behalf, because I will certainly do that. Don't bring anything that is not under our discussions here, because we don't want anybody to challenge us on what has not been done here. And I also personally observed that the Minister of Housing and Urban Development is the co-chair, and he was here physically present. We need to reflect that as well. You don't put him there as somebody who gave a goodwill message. No. Please put him properly where he should be. With this, I would like to thank each and everyone that participates in this last session. Like I said, our resolutions are not communique. And I totally agree with the intervention of the Media Pass Registrar. We will not allow these resolutions to stand alone without reflecting the current situation where the COREN is, or any of the other partners is. We should link them up so that to be able to put the context properly. That we are going to correct, because it is going to go out, to the media, and so that when they are capturing it, let them capture it within the context of what is on ground. We are not starting many of the things now. So when you say COREN is being urged to do this, it's like alluding that nothing has happened, we are now starting. No, that should not be the case. I totally agree with you, Risa, on that. Once again, I want to thank each and every one of us for creating the time to be here for the last 2 days. I can see the statistics is very encouraging. And I also want, last born, I want you to note the data. They say data doesn't lie. The participant of NATE, of NICES, of NAEC, compared to that of you remember what we have resolved in council, that this fraternity, we cannot leave you behind. We'll put you in front. We must sit down and see how we can change those figures. Those figures, to say the least, they are embarrassing. But we know your problem. Let us sit down, engage us the more, so that those figures will change for better. On behalf of all of us on this side of COREN, please, I would like you to join me to thank our special guests, coming all the way from Malaysia. I know he was 2-3 weeks before now, he was in Bangladesh. We had to, I can tell you, we were on the dot, almost on daily basis, having a very good interaction with him, including the Herculean task of the visa clearance. But he sustained the efforts, and he's here, and I'm sure he has added value to this particular assembly. Please, let's put a hand again for Professor Megad. He has aptly demonstrated the global fraternity of engineering, I believe. Being an engineer himself, being a member of the international body. And by the way, I want all of you to recognize that he was our mentor for the last 5-6 years, that led us to the status we are now. And he was reappointed in India to continue with that mentorship, and then to also initiate us into these other 2 accords. So we want to formally appreciate you and recognize your efforts, and we want to thank you very much, sir, for coming here. Why is Madam President? She's not here. Anyway, let me not create additional time. Once again, thank you. I will expect that everybody here will create the time to come back. I would now like to answer that gentleman that spoke yesterday, that he wanted to see us having traditional dances yesterday. He wanted us to add some what he calls spices. In engineering culture, we don't mix the two. we have a culture here. For the first day and half of the second day, it is business. Very intensive bubbling of minds. If you want to see that aspect, and I want to contest with you, you can come and see it in the evening. We will beat other groups. When you come in the evening is the time that you will see the other bubbling, again, the other side of us. You see culture, you see sociality, you see everything about what you are requesting to happen yesterday. It didn't happen yesterday because that's not our pattern, that's not our tradition and our convention. But come to tonight around, what time is it? 7 p.m., please come back. You will not recognize this place, I believe. And you will see even the mood and the attires of everybody will change. Once again, please, I expect you to honor our invitation and come back so that we will thank ourselves for a very successful outing this year. Once again, thank you.
Thank you all very much. May we now invite Engineer Olu Ogundile for the vote of thanks. Members of the technical committee, please. Okay. Shell group, please. You may come up for group photograph. Technical section and okay. Technical committee first, please. Sorry. Shell, just wait behind. Technical committee. Can you quickly come out for a group photograph? Members of the technical committee, please, let's come out for the group photograph. Quickly, please. Please, MOC members, council members, please wait behind after this section. Shell Petroleum quickly. After that, we'll now take the vote of thanks to be delivered by the chairman of the main organizing committee, Engineer Olu Ogunduile, fellow Nigerian Society of Engineers. Vacancy position for project manager in Bonny Island and Kaduna. Interested engineers for the position of the project manager with well over 14 years of relevant working experience in gas facility plant. Interested persons should forward his CV to ozing2001@yahoo.com. OZINY2001@yahoo.com. Closing date is 5th of September.
Distinguished engineers, please, we want the council members to come on stage for photograph. Council members, please. Council members, please.
Council members, please, you can come for photograph. Shell, thank you very much. We may now clear the podium, please. Let us clear the podium. Council members, please come forward for a group photograph. Thank you. Council members, come forward. Let us clear the podium. Let's clear the aisle, please. Clear the aisle, clear the podium for council members. Once again, I read the vacancy announcement. Vacancy position for a project manager in Bonny Island and Kaduna. Council members, please come forward for the group photograph. Interested engineers for this position of project manager in Bonny Island and Kaduna with 14 years of relevant working experience in a gas facility plant should please send their CV to oziny2001@yahoo.com. Closing date is 5th of September 2024. That is tomorrow. ozin2001@yahoo.com. Please, if you are not a COREN council member, can you please go down from the podium? Thank you. Please, the program is still on. We should clear the podium. If you are not a council member, please, you should not be standing on the podium. Thank you all. We can now have the vote of thanks by Engineer Olu Ogunduile, the Chairman, Main Organizing Committee of the 32nd Engineering Assembly. Okay, please, let us vacate the hall now so that the hall can be rearranged for dinner. And remember to come back for the dinner by 7 p.m. Council members to wait behind. Members of the organizing committee, wait behind. Thank you.
Please come with your tags in the evening because that's what admits you into the hall for the dinner celebration. Thank you. 7 p.m. please. We're kindly requested to vacate the hall because the hall has to be redecorated for the dinner. So please vacate the hall. Kindly vacate the hall. Kindly leave the hall as the hall has to be redecorated for the dinner tonight. 7 p.m. please. Come with your tags as your tag admits you into the hall for the celebration. Come with your tags, please. You may kindly vacate the hall. If you are still seated, you are wrong. Please vacate the hall.